machine gun!
Battlefield 1 closed alpha gameplay. I'm sure you can't tell the difference between this gameplay and what I showed you earlier in the week. That was from the live stream. But trust me, there are some small, subtle differences. Today though, I wanted to give you guys some cool information about Battlefield 1, and a lot of it hasn't been publicly released so far, so you likely won't hear this anywhere else. I asked the developers some questions, and they answered. Some of the information is correcting what might have been reported by other outlets from the live stream and EA Play. There's a lot of incorrect information out there right now, so I'll attempt to fix some of that as well. Right, first up, and I think this will be welcomed by the majority of people who played the previous Battlefield games, Battlefield 4 and Hardline, Battlefield 1 will support high tick rate servers on release. On the PC platform, the game will run at a 60Hz tick rate minimum. This information comes from Tigger, aka David Serland, and he is the lead developer over at DICE LA, and he's the guy who pioneered the community test environment for Battlefield 4, and DICE LA have been helping to produce Battlefield 1 as well. He and I had a good chat at EA Play. He stood behind me whilst we were playing in the capture session and dropped quite a lot of information on me, which I hugely appreciate. And he's also stated they are working hard to hit that same 60Hz target for the consoles as well. It is harder to meet that target on the consoles as restrictions from Sony and Microsoft, they need to be navigated first of all. PC doesn't have that issue. For people who are listening right now who have no clue what a high tick rate server is, well, here's a very brief crash course. Having a higher tick rate means the information your console or PC sends to the server, like shooting bullets or moving around the map, is sent more frequently. The server then processes this and sends responses back to your console or PC at a faster rate, meaning your actions and other players' actions are more closely represented on your screen. So previous issues from Battlefield titles like missing bullet damage or dying round corners, those become a much smaller issue. They can't be fully eradicated because there is always some inherent latency with online games, but having the game run at 60Hz tick rate will ensure a much smoother, fair gameplay experience for everybody. Next up, we have tank takedowns. Now this is not a feature that will be included in Battlefield 1 multiplayer. It's been reported by a few gaming outlets that this would be included, but it isn't. For those who don't know what a tank takedown is in this context, it's where a player outside the tank could climb on top of it, open a hatch, and throw explosives inside. Now while that sounds really cool, it's not coming to Battlefield 1. Just want to make that clear and ruin all your dreams. Third piece of information, recoil. Battlefield 4, the last major Battlefield title, included something called visual recoil. Now, a quick explanation as to what that is, because it can be a little bit confusing. This is an extra recoil effect added to the weapon model on top of the real recoil values. So your gun would bounce around further and more erratically, and it was purely a graphical addition to make the game look more cinematic. That's gone in Battlefield 1. There is no visual recoil at all. What you see on the screen with your gun bouncing around, moving from left to right, up and down, that's exactly what's supposed to happen. The statistics are telling the weapon to do that, and that's what you're seeing on the screen. There's no extra recoil on top just to make things look pretty. This is a really good move by DICE considering all the hard work that was done in the past to remove it from Battlefield 4. It really wasn't a popular feature. I'm glad to see that it's gone here too. Visual recoil makes it harder for you to accurately hit your shots on the enemy, so the fact that it's gone means we should see more tactical gunfights. Another correction now, bombs dropped from aircraft. In Battlefield 1, there are 3 different types of aircraft. You've got the bombers, the attack planes, and the fighters. Both the attack planes and the bombers have access to bombs, which can be dropped from the sky. The bombers being the larger aircraft, and as the name suggests, are usually used for bombing. They have 2 different types of bombs available. Smaller, anti-infantry bombs, which are timed explosives, meaning they hit the ground, pause, and then explode, very much like a grenade. And they have access to larger, traditional impact bombs. These are meant to cause a lot of damage. Now the attack planes, they only have access to the smaller, timed explosive bombs. Some places have reported that all bombs are timed explosives. That isn't correct. You can also hold down the fire button when dropping the bombs, and the camera will follow them so you can watch them land, which is a cool addition. Scope glint has always been an issue in Battlefield games since its introduction. Some people feel it's too overpowered in favour of the person who sees it, as they know exactly where that sniper is without having to spot them, and the people who end up casting that glint feel it removes the stealth aspect of sniping. Here in Battlefield 1, the weather affects the glint. It can only be seen in sunlight, whereas during rainfall and fog, the glint is removed. This makes a lot more sense than previous implementations. Glint wouldn't be present during rainfall anyway, nor fog, and it matches the idea that snipers need to reduce their engagement range during those worse weather conditions anyway. Smart thinking from the developers there. Spotting is another pressure point for Battlefield players. 3D spotting is still part of the game. That's where a little icon appears above a player's head on the screen when you spot them, but DICE have removed what's known as passive spotting. You now must push the spot button, be looking directly at an enemy to spot them. This means the mechanic is more skillful, as you need to take time away from engaging to complete the spot. The scout class will be more powerful now because of this. Because they tend to be further out, away from the action anyway, they have the time to pick out enemies. So yes, 3D spotting is still in the game, but the act of spotting has been changed somewhat. A couple more things, weapon classes. There's some information going round out there in the community that medics will have access to bolt action rifles. I don't know where that came from, but that's definitely not true. Each class has its own set weapons, and there are no all-kit weapons in Battlefield 1. In past games, weapons like carbines and shotguns were shared across classes, but that's not happening here. Assault players get SMGs and shotguns, medics get semi-automatic rifles, the support players get the LMGs, and scouts get the bolt-action rifles. This gives the classes very defined roles and emphasises the team play needed to have a fighting chance in all different types of play. And finally, 2 small snippets. You all have parachutes. A lot of people thought there weren't going to be parachutes in Battlefield 1, but there are. But you will fall much further now before it's deployed, and there are no blocks to melee attacks. Like the counter knife in Battlefield 4, that is gone. Swipe combat is back, and takedowns are still present, but each melee weapon will do different amounts of damage to enemies. If 2 players decide to bayonet charge at each other at the same time, whoever activated the charge first will win the fight, so you need to act fast. So there you go, lots of information corrected and lots of new information as well. Let me know what you think of all of this down below in the comments. Personally, I think the 60 Hz minimum tick rate for servers is a huge win. Everyone wants a smooth game after all, and while you're down there in the comments, drop me a like as well. But until next time, my name is Westie, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.